Hey folks, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to document the process of creating the script that will determine the winner of the Programming for Musicians Full Ride Scholarship giveaway. So stick around, I'm going to be coding this live. You'll get to see everything that I'm doing. I'm not going to edit this video, so apologies if it takes a while. I did a dry run of how to program this thing so I could figure out all the steps that were needed. And it took me about 2.5 hours to kind of flesh everything out. So those are basically my notes, and I will be reading off my notes and kind of doing it again. Just as an aside, this process that I'm doing is basically what you can do if you want to do the course projects in Xcode or Visual Studio using the Juice framework instead of doing them on Replit. You still have to commit them and push them and whatnot, but this is a way that you can use Juice and Producer and the command line stuff from here. So without further ado, we're going to dive into that. I'm going to open a new project in Producer. It's going to be a console application, so just regular command line stuff. So we'll do that. And now I am going to pick the folder, and let's see. This is going to be called PFM giveaway. Like that, we'll just put this where all of my student stuff is. That'll be a good spot for it. All right, so create, and now save. And we'll put that on this screen. All right, so as you can see, it's very simple. It's just the regular main function with nothing in it. Okay, so the first things that we need are some source files. Oh, sorry, not source files. We need the data files. So I need to get the list of all the people that actually signed up for the trial and whatnot. So let's do that. That's in, I can pull that from Gumroad. I've got that set up here. So what I need to do is set these dates so that way it's starting from when I actually created the course, which was last June. The course has been alive for a year, which is awesome. So I created the course in June. I think I started the trial in November or something, but we'll just grab everybody starting from June so we have like a decent amount of data to pull, and we'll go all the way through today. Not July 2020, June. Okay, so that's a good chunk of time right there. Download. All right, we'll just wait for this. It's going to be a CSV file, which we will need to parse in. We will need to parse that in our code. Yeah, so we will do some filtering and whatnot to extract out the customer information that we need. So we're waiting for this to do its processing. Now I have already downloaded the Slack data, which is basically all the channel messages that happen in there. So let's see, we'll put this on the desktop. Where's the giveaway data folder? You'll get to see what I mean in just a minute. Let's see. PFM giveaway data. All right, so here's the Slack folder. You can see it's got all of the stuff in it. This is basically when you export a Slack channels or a Slack workspace's information, you're given all of these JSON files. Okay, so we'll just put this as Gumroad as customers.csv. Customers, like that. All right, so that takes care of that. We can close this. We can close this window. We can go over back to Xcode, and now we've got this. So now we can start working on this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find that directory, and that was on the desktop. So to do that, we just need to go auto direct data dir equals file, and we want get special location. This is a static function, and we want to pull from the desktop directory. So file special location type desktop directory. And we want a child file called, the name of that folder that I saved everything. So get child file, excuse me. And that was, let's see, where was that on the desktop? That was here. Where's that path? That's desktop, and then PFM underscore giveaway underscore data. All right, so that's what we want here. PFM underscore giveaway with capital G data, like that. And let's check and make sure that it exists. So if data dir.exists. If it doesn't exist, that's what that exclamation point means, then we can leave ourselves a nice little message, data dir doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, we shouldn't do any processing. Return 1. All right, let's run that. This should be easy. This should tell us everything we need if we got the right right location, right folder, and whatnot. And let's see what happens. All right, this should start compiling quicker. The more, like the first initial compile is always a long time because it's got to compile all of these files right here, all this juice library code stuff. But once it gets through that, it should be pretty quick every time we need to run it. Okay, running. Let's see what it does. It should say return 0. Program ended with exit code 0. All right, perfect. Okay, let's give ourselves kind of a pretty debug message output every time we do a new step. So we'll just say void print section like this, and we'll give it a string to print. String message like that, and we'll just say debug. Let's see, give me 2 new lines and then a bunch of equal signs, or I'll just copy this. Copy almost all of it. We'll just put that there. Whoops. Put that there, like that. And then debug message. And then debug quotes, and then the 2 things at the end, like that. All right, so that way we can put right here print section opening customer list. All right, so let's open up that CSV file. And we'll give some notes to ourselves. What we need to do is open up the CSV, and then we need to extract all of the trial customers. Then we need to extract all of the full course customers. And then we need to eliminate trial customers that bought the full course, right? They already bought it, so there's no need for them to get a free copy, right? That makes sense. Okay, so let's do that first. Scroll this up. We can get rid of that. So we are going to look for that child file inside this folder. So we will do auto customer CSV equals data dir. Wait, why is that not auto-completing? Why is that not auto-completing? That should be auto-completing, so there must be an error with this. Ah, yes, I'm missing a quote. There it is. All right, now we can do it. We can do auto customer CSV equals data dir dot get child file, and the name of that file was customers.csv, I believe. And we'll do the same check if customer CSV dot exists, and it's a file. If it doesn't exist as a file, then debug customers.csv doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, we should bail. So return 2. All right, let's run that. Make sure, let's just, all we're doing is we're making sure that we can open this file, and then if we can open it, then we can start parsing it. All right, opening customer list, program exited with exit code 0. Perfect, so that's awesome. All right, let's continue on. So we're going to make a string array, and we are going to import it like this. So customer CSV dot read lines like that. Okay, so let's let's make that string array. String array customers like that. All right, now the names of the different trials are, let's see, what's the best way I can show this? I had an old trial. And then I got rid of that workspace when I created the new one. So those have 2 different names. Let me see. I can just look at this CSV if I open it in Visual Studio Code. Let me make a new Visual Studio Code thing and open up that folder. Let me shrink this a little bit. Open folder. We'll go to the desktop. Is this where we are? Are we on the desktop? We are on the desktop. So we'll open that folder. All right. So now we can just look right at this. We can see the names and stuff. All right, so purchase ID, item name. Okay, so that's what we're gonna look for is PFM, C++. Okay, so let's see, we've got the pre-order. That's a full product. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I spelled that wrong. C++ for musicians. And then let's see, it's called day 1 through 7. That was one of them. Let's expand this a bit. Close that. So there's the old one. And let's see if there's a new one. That would be just this one all by itself. Okay, so that's one name that we know. This is the name of one of the trials right there. So we'll make a little note to ourselves. Trial product. And then there was the other one, which was day 1 through 7 with these parentheses. Anybody who signed up in either of these is considered to have received one entry. All right, so now we need the full course. So that's full course. The reason we're going to do this is we're going to scan each line of this CSV file, and if they have this, they go into, if they have either of these, they go into a list of trial customers, and then if they have anything in these full course ones, they go in that other one. And then we will filter the trial one based on what's in the full course ones. We will remove people that are in this from the ones that are in this. Basically, that's what we're going to do. So let's go back here and let's see what we have. Let's see. Round 1. Let's see, I'm not worried about that weak stuff. This might take a minute, so what's a better way to do this? A better way to do this is to just open this in numbers. Reveal in Finder. And then open with numbers. And then I can just sort them and then look at them that way. So let's do that. Why didn't that let me do that? Open in numbers. I can close this because we're going to be looking at this JSON data that's here, where it says like, here's all the users and stuff and whatnot, and like we're going to need to parse all of this stuff to figure out the user's ID, their email address, and then if there's any messages that they sent, like, let's see, where's a message? I'll just go to like something that happened today or whatever, or let me see if I can find a message. Let's see, we'll go into something over in like maybe March or whatever. Is this for day 4? Let's go to like day 1. That's where people actually do stuff. Let's see. Join the channel, join the channel. Here we go. Finished product. Okay, so we're gonna need to parse this stuff out. So we're gonna need to get the user's ID and then look up. We're gonna use this user identifier right there to pull their email address from this thing, which has it. Like each user has their own user ID, and then in their field, in their profile stuff, they have all of their email addresses and whatnot. So, all right, there's a lot of data stuff to get through. So let's shrink this a bit. Let's sort this. Let's see, organize. Nothing to organize. Sort entire column. Sort entire table. We're going to add the column item name, and we want to sort it by the letter P, which we'll do descending, so it's alphabetical. So we'll see all this stuff. All right, task queue, shed with me, free stuff, free stuff, free stuff. Okay, so week 6, let's see. Week 5, we want to look for the actual products themselves. So, because those ones are what you get when you sign up for the course. That's not what we're looking for. We're still trying to assemble the names of the product. Keep scrolling, week 1, week 1, week 1. Okay, so we've got PFM round 1. Let's just copy that, paste that here, switch back. All right, let's see, here's pre-order. What else we got? This one, November 2nd. And let's see, that's the day 1 through 7. We already have that, that's trial. Shout out to all of you that signed up for this stuff. I really, really appreciate the interest in this subject. It's a really interesting subject for me, and I really, really enjoy teaching it. So one thing I've started doing is whenever people get stuck on their projects, I'll just call them in Slack directly instead of typing the messages. And it makes it like much more personal, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing the people get their gain understanding. I think it's awesome. So that's one of my big goals, is to just help people not be afraid of this skill and to be able to learn all this stuff. Okay, still scrolling, still scrolling, still scrolling, still scrolling. Geez, there's a lot of people that sign up for this trial. I guess that's good. Okay, here we go. Here's another paid full course product name. And let's go to the end of that. There's this one here. All right, let's see if there's any more. I think that might be it though. Yep, that's it. Okay, cool. So we are done with this. All right, so we can get rid of that. All right. So next, let's see. Let's go back to Xcode. The next thing we are going to do is the very first line of that CSV, if we look at it, if we look at this right here, the very first line, if we go all the way to the top, the very first line is this thing which just contains column names. And we don't care about that. So we will remove that first item. So that is going to be customers.remove 0, the first string. All right, now we need to make 2 different containers that we can put all of our search results into. So I'm going to use an unordered set because you can only add something into it once. You can't have duplicates. So this is going to remove all the duplicate stuff. So we will do std unordered set string because each of these are strings. And we will call that trial customer emails. And then std unordered set string, and this is a full course customer emails. All right, let's do a new section header. That's going to be print section, adding people, let me put that in quotes, adding people who signed up for the trial or full course. All right, now what we have to do is we have to loop through this string array. We have to tokenize each string that's all separated by commas. If we go back and look at this, we can see it's like, here's the purchase ID, then a comma, then here's the name of the product, then a comma, then there's the buyer's name, then a comma, and then like their email address, and then a comma. All right, so that's how we'll tokenize this. Okay, and then once we have tokenized it, we can then check whether or not that particular tokenized string contains one of these product names. Okay, so let's do that first. So we'll do for auto customer customers. All right, we're just going to loop through all of them. So let's make a note to ourselves. The fourth column, let's go back and look at this. So the fourth column, here's column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and then column 5. Fourth column is the email address. Fourth column is email. All right, and the let's see, what else did we have? The second column is the item name. The fifth column is if they unsubscribed. If they unsubscribed, they never got noticed that this thing was even going on, so they aren't entered in it, so they need to be excluded. All right, so fourth column is email. Second column is product name. Fifth column is do not contact. All right, so we have that, so we can start doing our filtering. All right, so we will do, let's see, we'll do auto customer data equals string array from tokens, and we're going to tokenize the customer string. And this is the wrong from tokens. From tokens, this one right here, because we need to specify the character that's going to split the string up. So we're going to do customers the string. We're going to use commas, and I don't think there are any quotes, but we'll just add it anyway like that. All right, so now we've got our customer data, and now we can do auto product name equals customer data, and the product name is the second column. Arrays in C++ are 0 based, so the first index is at 0. So that means the second index or second column is at 1, like that. All right, so now we can check if the product name matches one of these or one of these. Okay, so we'll do if product name dot equals, ignoring case, put in quotes, we'll do this. If it equals this, or product name dot equals, ignoring case, this, again in quotes, then they signed up for the trial. Okay. Else if product name, and then this is where we need to check all of the other ones. Let's see. We can just do if. I'm just going to copy this because it's just easier. So if product name equals this, let me get rid of this thing right here. So that, and I will add some ors, and I'm just going to duplicate this line because we know we need 5 of them. 3, 4, 5. All right, now I can put these in quotes, and now I can copy these over. This is what I'm going to search for. All right, there we go, and we can get rid of this. Okay, so if they signed up for this, then if they are not a do not contact, then we're cool. And if their email address contains an @, just to be like extra sure that like it's an actual customer, then we can add it to this. So we'll do that check first. Auto customer email equals customer data. Or data, and then we want the 4th column, so that's the 3rd one. And then we can say if customer data, that 5th column, equals a 1, meaning do not contact, then we know that they should be excluded. And we'll leave ourselves a little message. Customer unsubscribed, and we'll give them. Let's show ourselves the name. Customer email. All right. If customer email dot contains, contains an @ symbol, then it's an email address, and now we can insert it into this. So this thing. If we insert, it will return an std pair, which contains an iterator to the element, and then a Boolean as to the success of the insertion. If it succeeded, cool, then it's not a duplicate. If it failed, then it is a duplicate. So we can do auto, let's see, this is the iterator, and then here's the whether or not it succeeded equals trial customer emails dot insert, and we want to insert that customer email. All right, and that line is getting color coded. All right, cool. So now we can do if it failed, success. Then we can say debug duplicate sign up for trial. Customer email, because I know there were a few people who, for whatever reason, they signed up right away and then they didn't get the emails right away because Gumroad sometimes can take up to like, it can take like 10 minutes or so before it sends out those emails because Gumroad has millions of customers that it has processed. So anyway, because they didn't get those emails right away, they would sign up a 2nd time or a 3rd time or whatever. So let's see if we get a duplicate. All right, that's the first one. So now we can do the same thing over here. We can do, let's see, auto customer. I can just copy this line. Customer data equals that. And then we can do the same thing. If the customer unsubscribed, they unsubscribed. And then we can check if the customer email contains an @ like this. Then I can do this same line, and instead of inserting it into trial customers, we're inserting it into the full course customers. And we can check if success failed. Let's see, if the success failed for whatever reason, customer purchased the course twice. Customer purchased the course twice. So that's kind of a good sign. All right, now that we've got that, let's see, this is assuming that this all works. We will just compute, we'll see how many we have to work with. So debug trial customers, and that's gonna be trial customer emails.size. And then we can do the same thing, debug full course customers, full course customer emails.size. All right, let's run that and see what we come up with. I think this might require C++ 17. Yep, decomposition declarations. All right, so we'll fix that in just a minute in Producer. All right, cool. So we're down here at the end. We got all these duplicates that we can see. And then we can see customer purchased the trial. Awesome. All right, so we have 1,092 people that are in the trial. So that's awesome. Okay, great. So let me fix this warning because warnings are annoying. That's over here. And we'll change this to be C++ 17. Oh, and don't call home. Yeah. All right, C++ 17. Resave. All right, let's do our new filtering. We're gonna remove anybody from trial customer emails that purchased the course. That's the next thing we're gonna do. So we were going to do print section. Give me that autocomplete. All right, whatever. Can't wait for that. That'll take too long if I wait. Removing full course customers from, oh, why is this so slow? From the list of trial enrollees. All right, now to do this, what we need is a candidate structure that can store their email address, the number of entries they get, because the rules were if you sign up for the trial, you get an entry. If you join the Slack workspace, you get an entry. If you do the project parts, you get one entry for each project part. Okay, so we need some structure that's gonna keep track of that. So we will do struct candidate like this. Then we will do, let's see, they're gonna have a string that's their email address. They're gonna have a string that's their Slack ID. Assumably they may not have joined Slack, so no Slack ID, like that. And then they're gonna have an int num entries. Everybody gets one. All right, and we'll have a print function, void print, oh boy, print const, and we'll just do debug email, and then num entries, num entries, and then Slack ID. That takes care of that. All right, and then let's see, in order to, we're gonna need a vector of these that we can add to it, so we will, we might need a constructor so we can like in place back and whatnot. So let's just add that now. Candidate, and we need our, we don't know if they're gonna have a Slack ID yet, so we'll fill it in later. So we just need a string for the email and then int for the num entries. So email, a string, and then num entries, I. Okay, so that's our candidate. Now that we have a candidate object, now we can make a container that's going to hold all of our candidates. So std vector candidates, like that. All right, and now we know how many trial people we are. We're going to have at least this many candidates because each of these gets one before we filter out people who already bought it. So let's reserve this so it doesn't, so it runs a little bit quicker. So we'll do candidates.reserve, and then this. Now, this is what we can do. We are going to loop through all of our trial customer emails, and we are going to compare them against this. And I'm not going to like try to do it in like a smart way or anything. It's just going to go through each trial customer's email, and then it's just going to go through all the full course emails and see if any of them match. And then it's going to go to the next one and do that same loop again. So it's inefficient, but whatever. It's going to get the job done. I'm not trying to overthink something like that. So for const auto trial customer email, trial customer emails, we need to check if we found this or not. So we can say bool found equals false. Now we can loop through all of the full course customer emails for const auto full course course email full course customer emails, like that. And now we can say if trial customer email dot equals, ignoring the case, full course email. And we can say found equals true. Stop searching because you found it. And then we can say if you didn't find it, then we can create a candidate out of this email address and put it in our candidates vector. So candidates.mplace back. And we want to do, let's see, we need their email and then they get one entry. So let's see, that's trial customer email. And then they get one entry. Okay. So once we do that, now we can check out the number of candidates. So debug num candidates. And then that's candidates dot size. All right, so let's see who's left. Right, we had 1,092. Some of these people purchased before the trial actually became a thing, and then they purchased way before I actually created this giveaway, which was like in the middle of May or something like that. So let's run it and we'll see what we get. We have some water. Why is this taking so long to build? Oh, it's because I resaved it to be C++ 17. That's right. And there's a lot of stuff in here I'm not actually using, so I should really eliminate a lot of things in here. So we can do that in the modules. Let's see, I'm not using audio at all. I'm not using any of these, which means it doesn't need to compile that. I'm not using cryptography. I'm not using the events. What does this contain? Yes, I'm not using that. Let's see. I'm really just using core because that contains like value tree and the JSON stuff. So we'll remove that, remove that, remove that. This should speed up the build time, so I'm not using any of that stuff. Right, so we'll resave. This is still building, so stop building. We'll resave it one more time. Resave. And let's just make sure that this has, we're going to need the var class, and let's see. Yeah, there's the JSON parser, so that's cool. Definitely going to need that. Let's see. All right, cool. We have access to var, which is what we will need to parse this stuff in JSON. So we can go back here. All right, and we'll build it. It should build much quicker. Oh, what's the problem here? Use color. I'm not using color. That's very strange. I didn't run into that before. Global var init. All right, I'll just put the event stuff back in for right now. Add a module, global juice paths. Let's see, we'll add the events. We'll add graphics because that's where I think all that stuff is. Let's see if that solves it. Oh my gosh, Xcode, you are so slow. All right, let's try that again. All I wanted to do was find out the num candidates and speed up that build time. The good thing is it's got way less stuff that it needs to compile. Jeez, 48 seconds. All right, great. Okay. Let's go back here. All right, let's run this, and we'll see how many candidates we have now that we've filtered out candidates who have purchased. We were at we were at like 1,080 or something like that previously, so let's see what we got now. 1,038. All right, cool. So that's filtered it down a little bit. So now that we've filtered this a little bit, we need to, our next step is to parse the Slack stuff, right? So our first step is going to be open the users.json file because we need to create candidates for each of those users. So that's this thing over here. That's this thing right here. We need to open this file, and then we need to get this thing, and then get this, not that thing, get this email. All right, so Juice has made this pretty interesting, pretty simple to parse JSON stuff. So let's just first open the file, and if we just look right here, we can see this is inside this Slack directory, which is next to this customers. So we'll go back up here to the top. We'll go to our data.dir.getChild file, and we're going to look for a Slack directory that we know is there. And then inside of that is the users.json. Get child file, users.json. All right, and this is the Slack users. Slack users. And then we'll do the same check we've done before. If Slack users.exists as file. If it doesn't exist, we have a problem with our with the child file paths that we're looking for here. Debug users.json doesn't exist. And return 3. I think that's good enough. All right. Let's run that and make sure it's cool. Make sure we get a 0. Because there's no point trying to go further than this if this is incorrect. All right, program exited with code 0. Okay, great. So now we can parse this. Now that it has been loaded, we can use JSON parse. Is it with a capital P? Let's see what we get with our autocomplete. Parse, and we're going to parse the file. Okay, so it's lowercase. All right, Slack users. And what does that return? It returns a var. Slack users. Auto Slack users JSON equals that. All right, now let's look back at this file. We can see that the first symbol there is a bracket, which means it's an array, and then each element is going to be an object. We can see that. What happens if I click on this? Nothing. Or it might, oh, looks like it didn't like that. It's trying to freeze. Okay, well, whatever. I can still do stuff over here. Oh, it kind of gave me a list. I think we can just select each item. Yeah, Okay, cool. So each of these is an object. All right. So we need to make sure that we can pull an array out of this. So we can do, let's see, if Slack users JSON dot is array. If it's not an array, we have a problem. So debug Slack users, users.json, users.json does not contain an array. Close this and then return 4 or whatever, something like that. All right, now that we know that it's an array, we can use it. So we can do auto Slack users array equals Slack users JSON dot get array, and we'll just pass it by copy. This returns a pointer, so we'll dereference it to make a copy of it. All right? Because arrays are only meant to be used if they are trivially copyable. Okay, let's look at this one more time. So each element in the array is an object, and they have an ID property, they have a profile object, and then they have inside the profile object, they have the email. Okay, so let's make some notes to ourselves about that. Oops. All right. Each element is an object, and then we can do object ID is the this is what their Slack messages will be sent under. Will be sent under. And then let's see, it was object. What was the name of that? Object profile email. All right, so object profile email is their email address. All right. If they bought the full course, skip them. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, you know what else I forgot? If they joined the trial after that date, then they don't get an entry because the giveaway ended at that one time. So let's see. Where can we pull that date from? We go back to our customers. Let's see. That's over here. Customers CSV. Do not contact purchase date. So that's the field after that. And it looks like it's, we just need to search if it contains 2020-06. All right, so that's pretty easy. So we can do, let's see, the 6th column is purchase date. 6th column is purchase date. So we can do purchase, auto purchase date equals customer data. And that's 5 like that. And then we can do if purchase date dot contains 2020-06. All right, is that what we're looking for? Let's see, this is 2009-06-01. Purchase date, purchase time, this is the time code. We don't care about that, we just care about this purchase date. So let's see, new stuff is gonna be way at the bottom. So we'll scroll all the way down to the end. So for example, this purchase was today. So we will ignore this. We would ignore this purchase, for example. All right, we can close that. Okay, so if purchase date contains 2020-06, debug customer customer signed up after trial, after giveaway ended. All right, and then continue. Skip them. All right, so we don't really care about this information anymore. We don't care about that. Let's see, who signed up after? Let's see, let's find out. Let's run this and see what we get. Oh, before I do that, let's do this line, and then we don't care if they purchased it twice. So I'm just curious if who signed up after it ended, because they shouldn't be included in this. All right, looks like we got a few. A couple people signed up after the giveaway ended. All right, cool. All right, so now that we have this, now we can start filtering out this stuff here. All right, so let's make another struct Slack user. This is going to contain their ID and their email address. All right, so we can just extract these out. So string ID email like that. And we need a vector, std vector Slack user, Slack users vector, because I already have something called Slack users. I should just rename this to Slack users file, but whatever. I'm already cool with this, and this isn't. I'm not trying to spend too much time on making sure this, like, all these variable names really reflect the object that they are representing. So we will we'll resize this to match. Let's see, whatever size this is. So Slack users vector.reserve, and then this size. All right, now that we have that, now we can just loop through these. And if we take one more look through here at the users guy, if it's not an object, we're going to skip it. And we should be able to pull this and pull this out. Okay, so let me scroll up. For auto Slack users array. This holds a bunch of var objects, which are reference counted, so we can pass them around by copy and it doesn't cost anything. So we can do jassert Slack user.isObject. All right, it's got to be an object or else we can't use it. If Slack user.isObject. Continue. Skip over them. All right, so now we can do auto ID equals Slack user. We know it's an object, so let's grab their ID. Got to turn it to string, otherwise this would be a var instance, which is not what we want. Then we can do auto email equals Slack user and this thing. And then to string. All right, now we can say, if they don't have an email address, email.is empty, for whatever reason, skip them, right? Because I can't contact somebody that doesn't have an email address. All right, so then we can do bool. If they bought the course, we're going to skip them as well. Bought course equals false. And we're going to do the same heavy-handed approach. We're just going to loop through all of the full course people like this. All right, so we'll get rid of this thing right here. If, full course emails. If, let's see, this is a customer email. If customer email dot equals, ignoring the case, the Slack user email address, they bought the course. And we can say they enrolled in the, we can say they enrolled in the full course. So that means they don't get an extra entry. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So Slack user enrolled in the full course. Customer email. And we found them, so we can get out of this. So if they bought the course, then don't do this, okay? And then the other thing is, if they left the Slack workstation, if they left the Slack workspace, they don't get an extra entry for joining that workspace. So we can check that property. That's this property right here next to ID. So we can do if Slack user, let's see, deleted, I think is what it was called. Let's look again. Yes, deleted. If deleted equals true, then let's see, what did my notes say? User quit Slack. That's what I wrote. Debug. User quit Slack. Email. Continue. Skip them. All right. So if the customer purchased the full course, if a Slack user purchased the full course, then we don't count them. if they left the Slack workspace, they don't get an extra entry. Okay, so then we're left with what? We're left with the people who are in the Slack workspace who have not purchased the thing. These people get an extra entry. So we go debug. Let's see, what's their ID? What's their email? Email. All right, now we can create a Slack user. u.email equals email, and then u.id equals ID. And now we can add them to the vector. So Slack users vector dot pushback u. All right. So that extracted all of the people from this users.json file that signed up for the trial and joined the Slack workspace, did not leave the Slack workspace, and did not purchase. Okay. These are basically people that are entered. Okay. Now that we have that, let's check the size. Debug num Slack users. And Slack users vector.size. All right, so we'll do jassert false right here, just so we can see it. Have a little bit more water. All right. Num Slack users, 367 people. All right, cool. That makes sense. All right, good times. Let's see, Slack user enrolled in the full course. So that's cool. All right, so now we can give all of these people an extra entry as a result. So let's see, print section. And we want, quotes this out. Give that guy quotes. Adding an extra entry for candidates who joined Slack. All right, let's get rid of this jassert false. Let's see. For each of these candidates. All right, now we're going to loop through this Slack users vector. So for auto Slack users vector. If the Slack users email matches the candidate's email, they get an extra entry, and we can assign their Slack ID, which is helpful. Okay, so we can do if slack.email equals candidate.email. Their email addresses match, so we can do candidate dot let's see, Slack ID equals Slack dot ID. We can do we can give them an extra entry. So candidate dot num entries increment and break. All right. So this breaks out of this for loop. Okay. So there we go. That takes care of that guy. And then now we can say anybody who is not in Slack, or I'm sorry, anybody who is in Slack who is not in candidates, because there are some people who signed up for the trial with one email address and then they joined Slack with another one, they get their own entry as well. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we will do, make a note to ourselves about that. Anyone in Slack who is not in candidates gets an entry as long as they didn't buy the course. And the good thing is that everybody in here, everybody in this thing did not purchase the course. So let's, we will clone this guy and start adding to that. So auto candidates clone equals candidates. And now we're going to start adding to this. For auto Slack users vector. And then bool found equals false. And then let's see, we're going to loop through our candidates. And as long as this Slack user is not in the candidates, then we can check if they bought the course and whatnot. Okay, so for auto candidates, if candidate email equals slack.email, then we found them. All right, get out of there. If we found them, that means that we already have a candidate entry for this Slack user. Let's see. If found, continue. All right. If they are not found, meaning like they joined Slack with a different email address than what they signed up for the trial with, we need to check if they purchased the course. So we can do bot autobot course equals false. And then let's see. I think I already did this up here. I think that's this right here. Yeah, we can just check this thing right here. All right. Paste that. Get rid of one of these. All right. If customer email equals slack.email, bot course equals true, Slack user enrolled in the full course. Get out of there. If they bought the full course, don't create an entry for them. All right, so we looped through all of our Slack guys. If they're already a candidate, skip them. If they bought the course, skip them. All right, anybody who is left, these people get added as candidates to this candidates clone vector. I'm not sure why I made that a clone, but I'm going with it. It's good enough. Okay, so candidate, and let's see, slack.email, one entry, and their Slack ID candidate dot Slack ID equals slack.id. And debug, adding Slack only candidate candidate.email. All right, and then add it to the clones. Candidate clone dot push back this new candidate. All right, perfect. So debug, let's see how many candidates we end up with. We had 367 Slack users, and let's see. Scrolling. Definitely going to comment out this showing the Slack ID and stuff. We don't need to see that information anymore. Let's see, where was that? Somewhere in here. All right, so we had trial people, 1,087. Num candidates is 1,033 at the current time. So let's see how many this changes when we add the people who signed up for Slack using a different email address. So num candidates, and this is candidates clone.size. Let's see what we get. Why did this fail? Oh, member named ID in Slack user. Oh, because that's all caps, that's why. Where were you, autocomplete? That's what I get for having a computer from 2011 that just cannot cope anymore. I desperately need a new machine. All right, here we go, running. All right, num candidates. All right, so we have a fair number amount. Let's see. There's a decent amount of Slack only candidates. It's definitely not 367, but it's definitely not 0. So there's a fair number of people who joined with a different email address. So we were at 1,033, and now we're at 1,106. So cool. All right, now that we've done this, now we get to do the hard part, and this is where we have to go through each of these JSON files and just search for messages. So let me go back to let's see, a day 3 project file, JSON file, and let's just see if we can find one where somebody submitted something, as opposed to these are just things that people. Oh, that's one right there. Yes, completed project. Okay, so this tells us what we're looking for. All right, so again, it's an array that's full of objects, and each object has a, let's see, they have their user ID and they have the text, and we need to check the text to see whether or not it's got a GitHub and a PFM project link in it. Okay, so let's make a list of the folders. So basically, let's make a note about this. Now parse channel specific data. If the Slack user shared a commit to a completed project, they get an entry. So let's look at what those folder names are. All right, those folder names are day 3, project 1, day 4, project 2, day 5, 6, and day 7. So day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. Let's start there. Day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. And one more time, what do we get? So project 1, project 2, project 3, project 3, project 4. Project 1, was that with capital P? No, lowercase p. All right, so let's just do this. Let's see, I can do that this way. Dash project. All right, 2, 3, 3, 4. And this is part 1, and then part 2, part 1. Is that right? Yeah, part 1, part 2, part 1. Okay, perfect. So we have the folders that we're going to look for. So what we need to do now, let's just make some notes about what we're looking for. Let's see, we're going to load all of this as an array. Each element is going to be an object, and then we're going to look for the text, and we're going to look for the user field. Okay. So let's say we're going to load JSON file as array. Load JSON file, extract the array, and then we'll see each element is an object. And then let's see, we want obj text must contain github.com as well as project, because everybody forked the projects, so the project names all have a consistent PFM CPP underscore like that. They all contain this word project. All right, so let's see, there's just the one submission on that day. Okay, so object text must contain that one thing. And then object user is their Slack ID of the candidate. Okay, so let's make a directory list. So we will do string array like this, directory list. And we're going to add all of these. Dir list, dir list. There's 5, so we need to do this 5 times. Dir list, dir list, dir list. All right, I'll do the same thing I did before. Dot add like that, and we can go day dash project. Oops, this needs to be quoted. Day dash project. All right, and we'll fill it in now. So let's see, day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and project 1, project 2, 3, 3. Oh, 3, 4. And this is part 1, part 2, and part 1. All right, great. So now we can do a print section. Searching, whoops, quotes. Searching through Slack data for GitHub submissions. All right. So now we're going to loop through this list of directories, and we're going to start extracting those folders. And then, yeah, we're going to open these directories. We are going to extract the list of JSON files using a directory iterator. And then in each of these JSON files, we're going to search for this thing. If we find this text in one of the objects, then we're going to use this Slack ID to grab. We're going to use this Slack ID to find the candidate entry and boost their number of entries. Okay, so it's a little bit complicated, but it'll make sense when we get through it. For auto folder dir list. All right, that's where we start. Let's get one of these. So auto day x folder equals data dir dot get child file. Remember, it's the Slack folder, and then get child file folder. All right. If for whatever reason it's not found, exists If it's not found, debug folder not found, and we'll give ourselves the name. Let's see, that would be day x folder dot get full path name. And if we can't find it, then we should stop. So return, just return some non-zero number. If the day x folder contains 0 JSON files, don't bother doing stuff with it. If day x folder dot get number of child files, and we are looking for, let's see, find files. We're looking for this thing. If it's empty, skip it. Debug folder is empty. Oh, let's put this in here. And bail. Wait, no, don't bail, because it might not be a big deal. So just keep going. All right, now that we have a folder that has stuff in it, let's loop through it. So auto iterator equals directory iterator. And what's that constructor? The directory is going to be day x folder. And it's not recursive because there's nothing in it. All right, now that we have this, let's see, what are our choices? IT dot, let's see. Next, moves the iterator along to the next file. All right, so we'll do that. That's just gonna cycle us through all of these. So while it.next, and now we need to get these files. So we can do auto JSON file equals it.get file. Like that. Isn't that convenient? All right, now we need to, let's see. Let's go back at this list. All right, so for day 3, here's all this stuff from 2019, and we want to exclude anything that's after when the giveaway ended, which was June 1st. Okay. So if the file path name contains that, so JSON file.get, let's see, get file name dot contains 2020-06. All right, so if it contains this, let's see, we'll just give ourselves a message, debug skipping file because it's after the giveaway expiration. And we'll show us the full path, JSON file dot get full path name. Continue. Right, and since it's not after the giveaway, we can try to parse it. Let's do that. So auto JSON equals JSON parse. Do the same thing that we did earlier with the users file. We're just going to parse it this way, JSON file. Whoops, like that. And then remember, it needs to be an array. So if it's not an array, JSON.isArray. If it's not an array, we have a problem. Debug parse file. Parsing failed for a file. Parsing failed for file. And we'll do this. For some reason, it's not an array. And let's jassert false for that. And then exit. All right, if it is an array, cool, let's get the array. Auto r equals JSON.get array. And we want the reference to what it owns. So we'll dereference it like that. And now we need to loop through each object, and this is where we're gonna do this stuff. All right, so let's see. We need to make sure it's an object. We need to make sure it has those two properties. For auto obj in the array. Again, this is an array. This is a juice array var, and var is a reference counted, so we can pass it around by copy. Okay, so that's why this is like this and it's not by reference or whatever. So we can do jassert. Let's make sure it's an object. Obj.isObject. Let's make sure it has that text property. That's what it needs to have. Jassert obj text. I'm sorry, obj.has property text. And then let's get the message text. Let's see, auto message text. Whoops. equals obj text dot toString. Okay, and then we need to make sure it's not empty, because if somebody shares a screenshot or a file of some kind and they don't put any text with it, then it's you have it's not going to have any message text, right? So we can ignore that. If message text dot is empty, we can skip. All right. So now we can check if message text contains a GitHub link or the words project. If message text dot contains github.com and message text dot contains the word project in all caps, like that. Actually, it should say PFM project, CPP underscore, like that. All right, let's see. Does this thing let me search files? I'm guessing it does not. Let's just click on something randomly. So for example, this one says, this is day 3 project 1. This has like PFM project 0. It's not what we're looking for. Right, does this contain the word GitHub? No, it does not. All right, so we would ignore that. And this is actually not even the right folder. So, wait, no, it is the right folder. Project 1. All right, so we'll just we'll just look for another example. Maybe there's one where somebody says GitHub. All right, finish project, footer icon, app unfurled. So yeah, maybe it's just only it's if they don't say finished project, or if it's like some other GitHub link that's being shared, whatnot. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, we'll say debug if the message text contains this thing and contains PFM CPP / project, or just project. We'll just do just project like that. Now we can check it. We can say debug message text like that. And then we can do, now we need to find the candidate that matches this. So we'll do auto / user equals obj user dot toString, because if you remember, that is this thing right here. That's their Slack ID. Okay. Now that we have that, we can do for auto candidate in our list of candidates, candidate clone. All right, because this one contains both regular candidates as well as ones that only signed up in Slack. They used a different email. Okay, so now we can check if candidate Slack ID, candidate.Slack ID equals Slack user. Then they get an extra entry, candidate dot num entries goes up. Now they can get a maximum of 7 entries, so that way if they have, we'll do PFM. Like that. If they have more than 7 entries for whatever reason, we'll just max it out at 7. So if candidate.num entries is greater than 7, candidate.num entries equals 7. And I'm also curious about who has that. So let's make a little note to ourselves. Debug candidate has 7 entries. Candidate.email. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that wraps up parsing all of that stuff. Let me go over how that works one more time. First thing we do is we have this big list of directories that we're going to go through. We're going to open each of those directories, and then we're going to once we've opened that folder, we're going to use a directory iterator to loop through all of the files in that directory. And then for each file, we're going to load it as a JSON. We're going to parse it as JSON, make sure it has an array of objects. Then for each of those objects, each object is a message. So we're going to parse the, we're going to parse all of those like that. Okay, we're going to grab the message text as long as it's not empty, because if it is empty, it could mean that it's just a file attachment, like an image or a screenshot or a video or something, like a video of their project or some issue they're having in Xcode or something. And then if it has a message, we're going to check that message and see if it contains github.com and PFM CPP project. All right. If it does, we're going to find the candidate and then find the candidate and then move on to the next one. All right, cool. So let's run that, and now we can kind of go through this. We'll have effectively parsed all of this stuff, so we can start totaling things up and see what kind of entry counts we had. So let's do that part next. Let's make a vector and do that. So we'll do a print section. Let's see, counting the number of candidates with X entries. All right, so let's make a vector, std vector int entry counts. Let's see how many people signed up and got 1 entry, 2 entry, 3 entries, 4 entries, etc., etc. So 0 entries, 1 entry, 2 entry, 3 entry, 4 entry, 5 entry, 6 entries, 7 entries. Okay, let's just make all these zeros. All right, so I'm just gonna, if their entry count is 0, we're gonna add it to here. If its entry count is 1, it goes to here. Add it to there, etc., etc. So we'll do for auto candidate clone if candidate.num entries is less than this thing's size, because this has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements, and we can have a maximum of 7 entries. If it's less than that, then we can do entry counts. This column, for example, if they have 3 entries, we want to write into the 3rd column. Remember, we're doing like 0 from here, so 0, 1, 2, 3. We're going to fill that in. We're going to add that they were there, like that. Now that we've done that, we can print it out. So let's go through each one. For int I equals 0, because we want to see which column it is. I is less than entry counts dot size plus I. And we will do debug num candidates with entries. So num candidates with 0 entries, num candidates with 1 entries, num candidates with 2 entries, 3 entries, 4 entries, etc., etc. All right, and then entry counts I. All right, let's see what we get. Oh, why do I have 2 tabs open? Very cool. All right, awesome. All right, so one person got 7 entries. That's cool. And we can see all these message text is like, what is this one right here? Task, message text. Where is that from? Interesting. Completed part 1. All right, that's fine. Skipping file because it's after the giveaway. This task is a continuation of. All right. Oh, you know what? I need to make sure that I'm not included because I've got a Cordy app account and a MatCat Music account. So let's see. Where are my Slack users? We don't want to go through those. Adding an extra entry for this. Okay, so we can do that right here. This is where we Slack is their message ID to send it to a profile. Full course, skip them. Let's see. Yeah, that's where we do this. Okay. If they deleted, quit them. All right. If their user email is my email or CordyApp email, skip them. If email.equals, let's see, is that what it is? Equals ignore case. mattcatmusic@gmail.com or email.equals CordyApp@gmail.com. Continue. Let's see, debug. Skipping myself. Continue. Let's see if that happens. And then same for here. We'll check when we parse these messages. If the message is from me, then there's no reason for me to include it. Skipping file because it's this. Failed for file. Let's see. If message text contains GitHub and PFM project. All right, then we can say if candidate equals this Slack user. So this is where we need to check if candidate. If we found the user of who it is, if candidate.email.equals mattcatmusic@gmail.com. I don't want to include myself. Or candidate.email.equals ignore case CordyApp@gmail. Continue. Debug. Skipping messages from myself. Something like that. I think that's what's going on. Because I'm not adding a these might not even be hit because there's no candidate. I believe I'm eliminating myself up here. Let's see. If email equals yes. All right, let's run it and see if this gets hit. You have a little bit more water. Skipping myself. Okay, good. Let's see what the debugger shows. Who is the email? CordyApp. Okay. All right, cool. And it did. All right, so it skipped me, so that's good. Well, it probably eliminated me because I have I've got a couple. I had to try out what it's like to purchase the course, so I have that as a sale. So that was skipped in the whole customers thing that purchased the full course. All right, so we are at the bottom. We've got our list of candidates with X number of entries. That's right here. Shout out to these people who put in the work and did a lot. I don't know if it helped them as much as it would. It didn't improve their odds too much. All right, so let's create the final list of candidates. Let's see, print section. Come on, autocomplete. There we go. Let's see, creating the final list of candidates based on their number of entries earned. All right, so we'll make a vector of strings like this, and it's called final candidate list. And then we just loop through all of our candidate clones for auto candidate clone like that, and then we go for int I equals 0, I is less than candidate.num entries plus I, And now we can do final candidate list dot pushback candidate dot email. So this is how they get their duplicate entries in the final thing. All right, so let's see the total number of entries. Let's see. Let me hide all that message text stuff. Let's see, debug total entries. Let's see, final candidate list dot size. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's right, I saw the breakpoint. So I'll get out of that. All right, total entries 1449. Awesome. Very cool. All right, let's go back down here. So now that we have our total list of candidates, we can randomly choose one. So I'm gonna code this up. I'm gonna just test it a couple times and make sure that it randomly picks people. And then in a separate video, I will actually do the drawing. So random R, print section picking a winner. And now we can do random R, juice random. And let's see, for int I equals 0, I is less than 10, plus I. We'll do this 10 times just to make sure that like it's not picking the same people. So we'll do auto winner equals r dot next int, and let's see, max parameter may not be negative or 0. Next random number limited to a given range. We want to limit it to this. All right, we're picking one number out of 1449. Did that say it cannot be 0? The max parameter may not be negative or 0, but it includes 0 in the result. Okay, so whoever the first person is in this list is cool. So we can do, let's see, debug winner IDX winner, and then email. Let's see, final candidate list winner. And then let's see, for auto, let's see who let's see how many entries they got for auto. Give ourselves a new line. For auto candidates clone, because this is where we keep all of our like number of entries that they had. If candidate dot email equals, let's make a temporary here. Auto winner email equals this thing. Winner email. Then we can do debug winner earned, let's see, candidate dot num entries -1 extra entries, because that's what we want to know. I want to know how many extra entries they earned from doing stuff. Extra entries to improve their odds. All right. So this is going to compute it 10 times, which will be cool. Let's run it and see what happens. All right, cool. So we've got, let's see, 1 extra entry. Let me move this. This should go here. And there should be 1 at the end. All right, one more time. let's see, 796, 1130, 826, 830, 14, 866, 9, 600, something like that. Let's see. All right, cool. 405 is our index, 13, 156, 1190, 1362, 1299. One extra entry, one extra entry, one extra entry. All right, cool. Let's create a new random. Let's do the random in here. All right. We're just testing out to make sure it's like randomly choosing winners. All right, cool. Oh, it's not picking up any. So 66, 163, 692, 1208. One extra entry. One extra entry. All right, cool. So that's working for me. Let's see. We had our list here. Yeah, these are definitely overwhelming all the odds and whatnot. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see. We can clear this. So I'm gonna make another video, and it's not gonna loop 10 times, but I'm gonna run this, and that's who the winner is gonna be. I'm gonna reach out to them directly. Hope they get the email. Hope they were subscribed, so hopefully they saw these giveaway things. I'm gonna give them like 5 days to take advantage of it before I remove the code, because yeah, that just seems like from the other giveaways I've seen, they like you have 3 days or 10 days to claim your prize, or 14 days or something like that. Otherwise, we pick another winner. So I'm going to do kind of the similar thing. All right. Thanks for checking this out. I hope you learned a lot about how you can write Juice command line stuff, or how you can write command line stuff using Juice and whatnot. And I hope you found this process interesting for how to parse JSON files and whatnot, and how to do it in C++ with the Juice framework. All right, I'm gonna wrap this video up here because it is crazy hot in this room. I have not had the air conditioner on the whole time. And I got my mic and my racks of gears and my Symfony interface and this light, and it's very hot in here. All right, so thank you so much for tuning in and sticking out for the whole thing. And I will see you in the next video where I will announce the winner. Thanks again.